We now know some of the findings from the preliminary independent autopsy for Nolan Wells. His body was found following a boating trip with friends. The cause of death has not been determined. His parents and family attorney say they're committed to finding out what happened to the teenager. Lee Waldman has the details.
Days after a funeral for their son in Mississippi, Nolan Wells' parents remain determined to find out what happened.
Any parent that would be in this situation, you would do anything to find out what happened to your child.
We want to know what happened to our son.
Wells' body was found on July 6 on the shoreline of Horn Island off of Mississippi's coast following a boating trip with friends on the 4th. Results from the official autopsy performed by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office have not yet been released, pending the outcome of standard toxicology tests. The Wells family requested a second independent autopsy, which found the 18-year-old's cause and manner of death undetermined, pending investigation, according to the family's attorney.
This pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. Understand, he's saying based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play.
In the independent autopsy report, Dr. Roger A. Mitchell Jr. explains he did not have access to all of Wells' remains after the state's autopsy, including a portion of Wells' neck. He noted retaining that neck structure during an initial autopsy is a, quote, common forensic pathology practice. Wells' body was found in the water. Attorney Ben Crump points out they don't know how he got there.
We still have more questions than we have answers.
Lee Waldman, 3 on your side.